So let's take a look at some examples. Now, if you notice that all of these have these t-charts, and if you look at all of these examples with these t-charts, it's all statement, reason, statement, reason, statement, reason. These are what are called two-column proofs. Two-column proofs because they have two columns, statements go on the left and reasons go on the right. And all of our reasons were all these properties that we had right up here. And if you also notice that our first reason is always given, and that's because something will be given to you to look at. So that's just your first reason. Given, why? Because it was given to you. So let's take a look at this first one, and it says if angle P is congruent to angle Q, and then angle Q is congruent to angle R, then angle P is congruent to angle R. So if I backtrack, I went from P to Q, Q to R, and then notice that they took the Q out, and they just said angle P is congruent to angle R. So think back. We traveled over. So what would be the reason? Transitive property. That's it. So let's take a look at another one. If x plus 4 equals 3x, and then they go from that to 4 equals 2x. Well, ask yourself, what happened from here to here? And if you notice that x is just gone. So they took away an x on one side. Ask yourself, did they do the same thing on the other side? And they did. Look, 3x minus x is 2x. So they took away an x. So they took out an x. They subtracted it on both sides. So that would be subtraction property of equality. And you could write POE for short, for property of equality. Taking a look at this one, they said x equals y, y plus 4 equals 3x, x plus 4 equals 3x. They gave you two things, and then they went from here to here. Now ask yourself, what did they change from here to here? Looking at those two rows, what changed? And if you notice that changed, they replaced the y with an x. If they replaced something, they swapped something in, that's substitution property. Okay, over here, this should be a degree symbol and degree symbol. They said that the measure of angle A equals 45 degrees, so 45 degrees equals the measure of angle A. Now, go back and look at your chart and ask yourself, what was the one where they switched sides? So it's like AB equals BA. And it wasn't symmetrical, but it is symmetric property. Notice I abbreviate property to prop, or property of equality to POE, but I'm not abbreviating anything else. I'm putting that full word in there. Subtraction, symmetric, transitive, substitution. I'm not abbreviating those. Okay. If you take a look at this one, go back and look at example A and see if you can figure this one out. So if you caught it, the PQ lines up, and then they just say JK to ST. Well, what allows you to travel over or jump over like that? Transitive property. Hopefully you got it. And taking a look at this next one, ask yourself what changed from here to here, what changed from the other side as well. And if you notice that they added in a 5 to both sides, if they added it in, that would be addition, property of equality. Or instead of that, you could write POE for short. Now, let's do our own full two-column proof. So it says, solve the equation 15x minus 18 equals 3x plus 2 and write a reason for each step. Notice statements on the left, reasons on the right, and they already set it up. So they put our equation and our first reason is given. And now we're going to solve this. So asking yourself, if you were going to solve this, what would you do? Now I say LOL, which means put the letter on the left. So how would I move that over there? I'm going to subtract 3x on both sides. So 5x minus 3x would be 2x minus 18 equals 2. And now I'm going to stop and ask, what's the reason? What did we do? Well, we subtracted on both sides, so our reason would be subtraction property of equality. I'm basically just stating what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So now I'm going to go back to my equation and continue to solve. So remember, I'm trying to get x by itself. So now I would add 18 to both sides, and I'd have 2x equals 20. Well, what did we do? We added to both sides. So what's our reason going to be? Addition property of equality. Hopefully you got it. And for the last step, divide both sides by 2, so x equals 10. And notice you're kind of mentally doing it, hopefully. And now your brain is going off. What's your reason? Well, we divided. So division property of equality. And that's it. Now, if we were going to take 10 and plug it back in to check it, think for a second. What would that be if we plug 10 back in to check it? What property would that be? What property would this be? And remember, plug it in means substitution. So if you thought substitution, you're right. Okay, now let's take a look at another one. So the first thing that I'm noticing in this one is those parentheses. And whenever you have parentheses, that means distribute. So my first reason was given because they told me what to do. Now I'm going to distribute. So 55z. And if I distribute 3 times 9 would be minus 27z. And then minus 3 times that 12 would be minus 36 equals negative 64. What's the property? Distributive property. That was what I did. I did distributive property. Not multiplication property of equality. I didn't multiply the same thing on both sides. I just distributed. Okay, now from here I notice that I have z's. So 55z minus 27z. Well, if I combine like terms, that would be 28z minus 36 equals negative 64. So now I'm just going to write it out. What did I do? Combine like terms. And now I'm going to get z by itself. So what would I do next? Add 36 to both sides. So now I have 28z equals negative 28. And sometimes in these proofs, they actually won't write out the steps. They'll just go from there to there to there to there, and you got to kind of fill in the gaps. So we added 36. If I were going to solve, I would add 36, which is addition property of equality, or POE for short. And then from there, divide both sides by 28. So z equals negative 28 divided by 28 would be negative 1. So division property of equality. And hopefully you have a better grasp of those properties, of those reasons. And don't forget, these are 2-column proofs. So we always put our reasons on the right and our statements on the left. Go back and look at the examples if you need some help.